And we should hit Zoom 2. Zoom 2.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Quality Matters. I'm your hostess, Darci Chambers.
I'm Kyle Chambers.
If you're watching this video on YouTube, we are obviously recording back to back because we are still in our same clothes.
We should have traded shirts.
No, thank you. We're going to continue our mini-series on understanding the standard. I have to look at my cheat sheet. We've introduced the mini-series, talked about how it starts at the top, the definition of quality, and support matters. And then
in today's global economy, quality matters. Benjamin Franklin once quipped, "The bitterness of poor quality remains long after the sweetness of low price is forgotten." Quality Matters is here to talk about all things quality. So whether you're looking to improve your business, getting ready for an audit, or dealing with failed inspections, tune in, check us out, then get back to doing work that matters.
now we are to design and development.
Yeah, design and development doesn't apply to everyone. A lot of companies can, the old term is exclude, but now you just have to say it's not applicable.
Okay.
It's one of the weird quirks when they rewrote the standard. I like not applicable back.
I find it interesting because we've already recorded that episode that's coming up about the ISO standard
yeah.
and exclude versus not applicable.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. That's true. Well,
So,
yep.
that's
Tune in,
coming
you'll
up.
figure it out. Okay. So, design and development, they changed the verbiage between the 2008 to 2015 edition. The requirements are virtually the same, and the fact is, and that you can approach it the same way either way. They actually made it a little bit easier in the 2015 edition of the standard.
Okay.
In the old 2008, they had an explicit requirement for stage reviews, and you had to have that term and use that, so they kind of took that away. But design and development, again, like I say, not everyone has to abide by it. A lot of companies don't design anything. They just do work, right? So,
Okay.
say you're like a pipe fabricator.
Okay.
Okay, so if you're a pipe fabricator, you're going to get the requirements from your customer. This is what they want. This is how they want it configured, and but you just weld it together. Way more complicated than that, but that's the idea.
Sorry.
You're not going to be responsible for designing anything. On the other hand, whatever, there's lots of companies that make cell phones, right? Well, each one of these is unique and different, and then they're going to reproduce it over and over and over again. So whoever designed this thing, well, they're responsible for design and development.
Okay.
So if you're making something that's truly unique, well, it's design and development. Now, it's not always product-centered, but generally it's product-centered. Maybe you developed a brand new way to do something, let's see, like I did this before worked with coating, so we would apply these coatings to these turbine parts, right? So we developed some really kind of revolutionary new ways of applying these coatings that no one else had ever done before. Well, that's a design, but it's something brand new that just really the world's never seen before.
Okay. So that's what design. You want to explain design and development a little bit more?
Yeah. So sometimes you do it once and then you're done. Right, and then you just build that product over and over. But generally, the companies that are responsible for the design and development clause, this is kind of a regular part of what they do. So, because let's just use cell phone because it's something that everyone understands. So, if you're going to build a cell phone, how often do these things get updated and replaced?
I think 2 years. Usually
Yeah.
they're on a 2-year contract.
And you get like a brand new phone, even if it's like this. I've got a Google Pixel, right? So I've got a Google Pixel 2 because it's not the Google Pixel 1, and I think now the numbers just keep going up, right? So every time they did that, they had to go through a design and development process. And you have to keep track of, well, what were our inputs into the process, what are our desired outputs, and how do we meet all those requirements, and whether it's legal requirements or technical requirements, you have to keep track of all of that stuff. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and it's very different from if you just change something, right? So a lot of
Okay, so you have that in your notes.
Yes.
About what's the difference between a design and a product improvement.
Yeah.
And do we need to record that?
You need to record those product improvements. It's part of your continual improvement cycle. So let's, a very common example that folks are going to run into is weld process specifications. And it's a fancy term for, what's two materials are you welding together, what are they going to be used for, and you have to develop a process and a spec with all the details from how much heat and how much voltage, the filler materials, everything, to make sure that this weld is a good weld for its purpose. It's generally not considered a design and development.
Okay.
But it's kind of in that fuzzy area a little bit, because some people, some organizations create new weld process specs that no one's really ever done before.
Mm-hmm.
But they're really not in the business of creating weld process specs, and they're actually going to go through a lot of the same steps that you would with a design and development program. So they can almost line up, but that's really not the intent, because there's other codes that are out there that tell you, which I think we've talked about before, is there are codes out there that tell you the requirements. You're not having to figure it all out on your own.
Okay.
But you want to make a change to that. Say one of your, you had so many welds break, right? And so you have corrective action, which we talked about in the last podcast, and we're going to make these changes. So what you would do is record a change process. And so a lot of people do that through an engineering change notification or management of change form. Virtually the same tool, just depends on where you're at. Two names for the same thing. Some people use corrective action for the whole dadgum process. Again, depends on where you're at or what you do. Don't get too caught up on the form names. But they'll record, hey, we made this change, so we're going to update this work instruction, we're going to update this procedure, and we're going to make all of these updates. And you record what you're changing. That's just a change. Design and development, on the other hand, is can really be a months, years long process to get done. Whereas we're not talking about, hey, we got the engineering team together, we sat down over the course of 2 or 3 weeks, we hammered this out. Design and development, we're really talking about, can be a long, continual process. And it's just the way you do business, and then everything else kind of feeds into that.
Okay. I think I understand that now. All right. So you have written down in your notes for me that you have a 3-stage plan
Yes.
for design and development.
Design, as with all things, I think it should be broken down to the most simple way you could do it and still get the job done. And I actually developed this for the old 2008 edition of the standard,
Okay.
because they had the explicit requirement for stage reviews. And so the designs that we conducted were like the smallest scale to really be considered design and development. Actually, we had to argue with our auditor to convince him it was, but that's another mess. So what we did is we came up with a 3-stage process, which is much refined now. But stage 1 is all about identifying your inputs and documentation requirements. So in inputs, like, what's your goal? What are you trying to do?
Okay.
People don't
Create a cell phone.
Yeah, people don't define that very often. Or if it's create a cell phone, heck, I showed you one a couple nights ago, right?
Yeah.
It's like a little tank that you could hold in your hand.
It was
with
a
an actual
BlackBerry.
keyboard. Oh my gosh,
was a
I loved
BlackBerry.
it. It's not a BlackBerry.
It's a BlackBerry.
But you want to know your purpose. Why are you doing it?
Okay.
Right? Because
So it can't be just as simple as, I'm going to make a new cell phone.
Right. Yeah, and what winds up happening is we reconsolidate the entire ISO 9001 standard into the design and development process. See, if you're listening, you're missing all the fun stuff to do with my hands. It's on the YouTube, so go check out the YouTube too. You gotta know who it's for, because if it's for techno geeks, this is a good one for that. If it's for the average everyday user, then
I see you looking at me.
yes, then the iPhone over there.
I have to
is
say,
good.
I'm kind of giggling because we went to meet the teacher, and they had these little QR codes to scan for different things. And I said to one of the other parents, "Oh, I don't have one of those apps on my phone." And she was like, "All the phones come with those now." And I was like, "Oh, well, mine's old." And I don't even feel like it's that old. It's what is it?
See, I'm surprised that they're using QR codes. I kind of thought they died.
I did too. But apparently it's a thing.
Yeah, we even put them on our business cards for a while, and no one scanned it.
Yeah, I
So,
don't.
quit doing that.
It was for. It was actually kind of cool. It was for transportation, so you could scan the code and just type in your address. But I can just go to the transportation website and do that. It's the same thing.
Okay. So.
Sorry, I got you sidetracked.
So you'll find that basically what we're going to do with design and development is we're going to kind of like rearrange the whole standard into that design and development process. So you're going to identify your inputs for that design.
Okay.
So you got to know why you're doing it, right? You got to know ahead of time what are some key objectives that you hope to achieve, some key measurables you hope to achieve, right? Mm-hmm. You want to know some specifications that maybe already exist that you want to use. You will know about your end users. You will know all of these things, right? Well, that's all the same things I saw in 2001. For the whole thing, like policy and objectives and interested parties, internal and external issues. Let me just package it in there.
My head's swimming. I'm just nodding and smiling.
Okay. So we want to know. Stage 1 is all about what are we doing, and
why
who's
are
it
we
for,
doing it?
and why are we doing it.
Okay. That's
stage 1. Then you go through, and we actually have a procedure for free on our website at TexasQualityAssurance.com, TexasQA.com if you don't feel like typing so much. But you're going to go through and you're going to identify up front, well, what documents do we think we're going to need?
Okay.
Hey, we're going to need a spec for, the plastic on the case. We're going to need a layout for the board. We're going to need specs for the camera. So you just go ahead and make a list of everything you think you're going to need.
Okay, so you're not actually making the documents now, just a list of what you need.
Just this is what we think we need, guys. And if you have something to start off with, go with it.
Okay.
And then you get the design and development team to sign off on stage 1 saying, hey, we like this direction. We're going to head that direction.
I thought we were in stage 2 already.
No, this is still stage 1.
The list of documents is stage 1?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm confused.
So it's our inputs.
Okay,
our
gotcha.
inputs and our document list. What do we think we need?
Okay.
Stage 2 is all about building it. And you may actually, we'll go there. But so stage 2 is all about creating it. So you're going to follow those original inputs and you're going to work it and you're going to put something together. And then when you've got something put together, you take it to the team and you look at it and you evaluate. Well, do we like this? Does it meet that requirement? Does it meet this requirement? And you just kind of a loose evaluation. Is it functional? Do we think we want to continue?
So are you writing down specs as you're
We are, but
testing
nothing's
this
really
out?
approved yet. It's all draft.
Just in case it's good.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's all draft. It's just nothing's approved, nothing's final yet.
Okay.
We're just working it, but we do sit down as a team and say, do we want to go to a final version of this?
Okay.
And so you may do that if you go through that process a few times. You may sit down and decide to start over. Okay, well that happens. So you start over. And then you re-record everything you did, right? It's a long process, but it works. So when stage 2 is complete, we've agreed that, hey, we have a working plan to meet these requirements.
Okay.
So now we're going to go ahead and approve all of those documents.
Okay.
We're going to have a full approved document set. But we're not done yet because we just think it's going to work. We have a good feeling it's going to work. Maybe we test it a little, but a little bit of testing is probably not the best way to do it. We want to go through stage 3, which has 2 components. Stage 3 verification. Does it do what we said it would do? Does it meet the specs we said it would meet?
Okay.
So very formal, very detailed.
Something you did a little bit in stage 2, but you're really going to check
Exactly.
it in
Now
stage
we're
2.
really going into it. Because
Okay.
that in itself can take a lot of time, and maybe you have to do destructive testing. So if at the end of stage 2, all you have is one prototype, you don't want to do destructive testing on your one prototype.
Right.
So maybe you have to build several just like it for your stage 3 verification.
Okay.
So stage 3 verification says, great, it is exactly what we intended to build, what
Okay.
we set to build. But that doesn't mean it's going to function the way you want it to function.
Okay.
That's what validation is. Because validation is you come in and basically say, does it serve the purpose we originally wanted it to serve?
Okay. So is it built the way we wanted it, and does it serve the purpose? Are the 2 parts?
Yeah, and you think about it, like you could have, we've bought furniture before, and you gotta assemble, right? And, what if they wrote the instructions wrong? You put the furniture together, you built it perfectly as the instructions said, but it's too high and you can't sit on it. Well, it fails validation. It doesn't serve its purpose. So sometimes folks get those two a little confused, and we've got details of what the differences are in the procedure as well.
Okay.
But like I say, design and development is just one of those things that can get so incredibly overcomplicated. And I think the reason it gets overly complicated is folks try to, we talked about this last podcast a little bit, micromanage with processes how people are supposed to do their work.
Mm-hmm.
Design and development is a creative endeavor.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't write a procedure on creativity.
True. Especially when you're in stage 2.
Yeah, you're just trying to figure this stuff out.
Right.
Now, maybe you can have some requirements on what they document along the way, but the design and development process goes crazy in that stage 2, and oftentimes it goes crazy in that stage 2 because they didn't finish stage 1.
Okay.
So if you don't have everything planned and lined out well, what's going to wind up happening is 2 engineers are each going to have their own independent vision.
And say, let's add this and let's make it do this.
Yeah, and so you got them both going a little sideways with each other, and you don't quite know, what the left hand is doing.
Whereas if you have your stage 1 documents, you can say, well, that's a great idea, but...
Right, it's not in alignment with what we
we
designed.
decided.
And so
Right.
then you have the opportunity, if you want to change that, to make that change. And this is where management change form is actually really, really nice. Because then you can document, hey, we're course correcting this design.
Okay. I
So
like
you
that
can-
idea. Okay. So is that all you have for that?
Just about, like I say, it's one of these processes that just doesn't have to be, from a process standpoint, so complicated. Let the engineers, let the creative people do what they do best, but put requirements on these final outputs to some very simple stages.
Okay. Sounds good. And then we'll have one more episode in our mini-series, and we'll have a special guest for that if we can ever nail him down. It's a little like Jell-O.
Yeah.
So, if not, we'll do it without him. So, all right. Thanks for listening, y'all.